Dr. Yakini Nasiru from the famous Modibo Adamawa University, Yola, who is an expert in forestry and wildlife management. You're highly welcome, sir. Okay, so at this point, I will pass on the mic without wasting much time. Just for you to know, we have with us the CAAP team from Adamawa State and also from various states in Nigeria as well. We also have the SDSN coordinators in person of Emmanuel Olaolu. He's also with us in the meeting. So you're all highly welcome. I would advise that we all mute our mics and then we listen to our guests speak to us about climate change and how we can tackle the effects of climate change as it regards humans and also our vegetation. So, well, I would call on Chief Johanna Moses to speak to us about climate change. Let us know what climate change is in a layman's term, and also how it affects man and the vegetation. Thank you so much. Over to you, Chief Johanna.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, hello. Chief. Kindly go ahead. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, my name is Johanna Moses. I work with the Environmental Care Foundation as the Executive Director. And the Environmental Care Foundation has been working on the areas of on climate change for quite a long time, almost about 14, 15 years now. And I'm so happy to be part of this webinar so that we can be able to understand more of the climate change and what we need to do to avert the catastrophic days ahead of us. Now, to start with, let me just briefly, in a layman, just like what Munira said, in the layman language, you know, climate change is simply referred to a long-term shift in weather pattern and temperature. To start with, if you look at Adamawa State for quite a long time, from 2012 till date, we have been experiencing different kind of things. Going back 2012, I think there was a survey by the Ministry of Environment in which they reported that the farmers are experiencing low yields in agricultural product. From that 2012 to, you know, there was also a flood at that time very well. And then since then, we've been experiencing different kind of things to an extent. Last year, 2022 was so huge. The flood was huge. The impact was huge. And also, we have seen something that we have never seen in Adamawa State last year around this time, the way that it is a kind of a sand dust, which was like the world is coming to an end to so many people over there. So these are all what we refer to some of the things that happen as a result of that shift in the temperature and also weather pattern. So in the layman language, these are just the changes that we see that people are talking about whenever they mention climate change. So that shows that there's a shift in the way things are done. If you look at our agricultural production, cultivation now, people no longer, you know, farm the way they used to do before. The time for the farming has changed. The yield have changed. The pest attack have changed. I mean, so on and so forth. So these are some of the effects of climate change. I'm just trying to run very fast. So apart from the understanding of the climate change, these are some of the major effects that is directly affecting us, even though the climate change affects us directly or indirectly, and it's all affect our resources. Primarily, our resources are from the land. We got major of our resources from the land, and that is where the climate change is also affecting very, very well, even though it's not only by the natural occurrence. We know quite okay that there are two major key players in climate change, or the human, the natural, and also the human factors that affect or that do a lot of things, increases our carbon footprint and so on and so forth, that will at the end of the day culminate and begin to, show a different reaction, just like what we've been experiencing in the world now, extreme temperature and so on and so forth. So these are some of the things I can see more of climate change. And moreover, the scientific evidence are conclusive that the earth is warming. The global induced climate change is happening with a serious, potentially damaging consequence. And e.g., the flood we are talking about, the last year flood, I think, was the most impactful flood, I can say. Looking at the number of people that died, looking at the number, the hectares of land, the farmland that was washed away, the property destroyed, and so on and so forth. And at the end of it, the disease outbreak. So these are some of the effects, I can say, of climate change on people or human beings. So this is what I can say for now, Minirat. If there's any question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johanna. Initially, we thought the time was going to be 40 minutes, but I just sent you a message to increase your time for presentation. So kindly note that you can actually add, yes, more contributions to, if you have some other things to add, you can actually add it, because your time has been expanded to 30 minutes instead of 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, now to add, if you look around, for quite a long time, people are not talking much about climate change. I remember 12 years ago when we started making noise about people coming up to start taking action, to start knowing much about climate change. There was not much response, even in the development cycle. I mean, the non-state actors. It's of recent, people start, making more effort on climate change, including the government. So, however, the issues surrounding the climate change, talking about the climate governance, talking about the climate politics and the climate action, is something that is not well perceived by so many state or non-state actors. In Nigeria, for instance, some states have Department of Climate Change, some states have Ministry of Climate Change, some states have commissioners for climate change. While in some states, they don't even have a Department of Climate Change. Despite the fact that the Nigerian government have tried, the Nigerian government have updated their national determined contribution in 2021. But I can tell you, so many people doesn't know about the NDC. So many people doesn't know about the climate policy. So by and large, these are some of the reasons why, for quite a long time, we are not responding positively to the issues of climate change. Apart from the normal, just tree planting. I know we've been doing tree planting for quite a long time, but that is not enough. We need to go further and understand the real concept, the politics. Why I talk about the politics is some people doesn't believe in it. Of recent, we are conducting a survey, and the result is quite amazing. You see people of PhD and still don't understand that there's an NDC, there is National Determined Contribution. Well, it's just that we don't have extra time to learn, to know more about the climate change, and which is the most dangerous things in the world now, because it's affecting everywhere, everybody, both the young, the old, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the reasons why the actions from people on climate change is very low, even from the government. In some states, they have not even domesticated the Climate Act. Yes, the president was able to establish the National Climate Change Commission, and somebody was appointed to do that. But still, we need a lot of engagement. The government, the state and the non-state government need a lot of engagement. People need to know exactly, yes, this is the climate change. Yes, this is what Nigeria have said they are going to do in respect to climate change and reducing the emission before 2030. And we expect the state government and the local government to key in and to run with it, so that we can have much bigger impact or action by people. But as of now, the only thing is planting trees. People forgot that even some of our lifestyle, the way you live your life at home, do you increase your carbon footprint daily or you reduce your carbon footprint daily? You know, the way you go to the market, how do you do your shopping? You know, the electricity, how do you take care of your electricity at home, your water, and so many other things, your waste, and so on and so forth. So it's since climate change is almost in every sector, so we really have to look at it critically, and we also have to, you know, come up with a kind of a localized adaptation, or we adapt to, a kind of a localized adaptation, respond to the climate change. Yes, the climate change affects us in different perspectives, and from country to country, when you even look at the national determined contribution, there's a slight differences in what the country really want to achieve because of the effect of the climate change in their territory. So what I'm trying to say, we have to look at in our own inwardly, right here. The major issue is our food security, is threatening our food security seriously. You know, 40 years ago, when the Lake Chad is booming, there's a lot of water in Lake Chad, and everywhere there's water, the extent or the food insecurity wasn't like that. But when you look at it now, the Lake Chad has even dried up. I'm living about, is it 20 or 30% now? So these are some of the things. And so now it's affecting our food security. We have to fight back. We have to find a better way of farming. You know, we have to find a better way of adapting to it. Yeah, in a kind of a localized way, introduce some kind of different agricultural practices, whether it's a climate smart agriculture, or we go back to our old age agricultural system that does not cause much harm to our land, and so on and so forth. And also our young people, the climate change to them is something that they see on the telly, they hear on the radio, they see people talking about it, but actually they are the major they are the one that the climate change is going to affect majorly, because they are still coming up. So we really have to ensure that we build the capacity of our young people to be able to, you know, start talking about climate change, not just talking, and start making, you know, climate action, so that we can actually, you know, reach the target temperature that we are talking about. Thank you. Over to you, Munirat. Hello?
Hello, Munirat, are you there? Hello, Munirat, can you hear me? Okay, okay. Can you hear? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Doctor.
We can hear you.
Okay, okay, then. So we'll not wait for her because time is of the essence. So thank you very much, Moses, your honor, for that wonderful insight. I'll pass the microphone to Dr. Yakini Nasiru to say a word or two, give us his own talk more, especially human Sorry. Doc- I think you're on mute, sir.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Barker, we can't hear you.
Okay. But can someone hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you very well.
Okay. Well, just like Chief Johanna has spoken about climate change. Climate change did not start in a day. It is something that has lasted over time. Things do not change in a day, but over time, these things happen. Humans are the cause of their problems. Nature is fighting us back because we could not sustainably we have not sustainabilized the resources. So there are so many things we can do to be able to bring back or halt these activities. The burning of fossil fuels, construction, urbanization, and so forth. These are part of the things that have aggravated, and it's our doing because we always want more. So how do we go back to where it starts? There are a lot of approaches, there are a lot of principles and tools towards restoration. When something happens, how do you get it back? It requires a lot of things. What are the approaches? What are the requirements? Some of the requirements is time, resources, the knowledge of the issue, enabling policy and governance. Sometimes it's not the government's fault, but in our own part as individuals, organizations, and as people, we need to be kind of proactive in whatever we do. So towards restoration, since it's vegetation, well, restoration has different aspects before I go further. But this aspect, if it is farmland, for farmland, you need to reduce the tillaging. You need to also use natural fertilizers rather than using chemical fertilizers. You need to be broad in the farming system. The introduction of agroforestry can help in a way whereby you have the trees, the cash crops. It can go a long way in reducing the effects of climate change on the farmland, in generally the vegetation. Then you need to reduce the herbicides and the pesticides we use. How do we reduce these things? Maybe we'll go back to integrated pest management and so on, whereby you use biological means and picking when you see a plant that is having issues or it's disease attack, you can unplug and burn. Then how do we restore our forests? Our forest is the major threat now. Our forests we've put in a lot of pressure to these forests, and we don't plant. In restoring the ecosystem, in trying to avoid climate change, we need to replant. Replanting has various aspects: afforestation, reforestation. Afforestation has to do with a place where there has never been trees, so you plant trees there. Reforestation is there has been trees, and for certain reasons or certain factors, it has been clear cut or it has been reduced to certain number. So we need to replant more to be able to get so many places with trees. Then we need to reduce the pressures we put on forests, because forests are not only about trees. The forest house a lot of, or it gives shelter to a lot of biodiversity. The fauna, the flora, and then it gives back to us certain things. It gives us food, income, and so on. So the pressure we exert on these forests are enormous. But when we sustainably utilize these things, the pressure will reduce. And thereby, restoring the ecosystem has to do with, one, the reduction in the pressure on this forest by sustainably utilizing it. That means awareness, creation, and a lot needs to be done from individuals, organizations, and governments. The greenhouse gases that contribute more to this climate change are always from us. A lot of us burn, a lot of people around us burn woods to convert to charcoals for our cooking. And therefore, the gases from this charcoal, burning of woods, burning of tires, and so on, all these accumulations result into the accumulation of methane in the atmosphere. So towards restoration, we need to reduce those impacts by telling these people to reduce how they do these things. Another way, it's by us reducing the other equipment we use at home. The pollutants, the non-biodegradables, these are things we need to reduce. Then things that have to do with wood that we use at homes can be encouraged. And then little things that have to do with the environment, waste management is another part of it. Look at our oceans, our lakes. The biodiversities that are there have so much problems with how we dispose our waste. And therefore, we have to reduce it. In order to restore it, we need to reduce the impact, and all hands must be on deck. The corporate societies, the individuals, the government, and all of us need to act so much. And by doing that, we'll be able to restore our environment to where it was before. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kini Nasun, for that insight. Thank you very much for your contribution. So let me speak to Chief Johanna Moses. Let's talk about the nationally determined contribution of which is a requirement by all the 196 parties to the Paris Agreement of 2015. Globally, the world population is expected to reach 9 billion persons by 2050. And at the same time, food demand is expected to increase by 70%. So which means we have to increase food production by more than 70% to be able to meet up with the food demand, with the significant increase in food demand. And you know that agriculture in Africa is basically rain-fed, most especially in Nigeria. And rain-fed agriculture is very, very vulnerable to climate change. So let's talk about greenhouse gases and then the nationally determined contribution that Nigeria is a party to. I learned that recently in 2021, as expected, after 5 years, each party that has signed or ratified the 2015 Paris Agreement is expected to review their strategy for another 5 years and make it more ambitious. So, what do you think about Nigeria? Do you think we have achieved a lot? Do you think we've achieved measurable milestone in terms of the goals, in terms of our nationally determined contribution to climate change? What can we do differently? What is the way forward? I like it earlier you mentioned that government, there's need for government, private sector to come in, to ensure we do it collectively. So, but what do you think of national determined contribution? Do you think we're on the right track? Have we made any progress? What is the way forward? Hello, Chief Johanna. Hello, can anyone hear me? Can you hear me, sir?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. I don't know if you got my question. I don't know if you got that. Should I come again?
Yes, you are saying that which way forward with our national determined contribution? I mean, despite the fact of this statistic that we have about the 9 billion people over the world and this food scarcity that is coming. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm trying to talk from the genesis of the NDC, okay? And why, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to talk a little bit about the genesis of the NDC. The NDC is supposed to be a Nigerian determined contribution. That means input supposed to be from everywhere. Whatever you are doing, if you didn't carry people along, it's going to take a long time before people will get involved. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
one of the issue we have about the NDC, I can say is the NDCs, because so many people don't even understand what the NDC is all about. If you go to some ministries, that means the government is not even serious about localizing the NDC. So the way forward, I can say, is government has to localize NDC and other climate change governance from the national to the local government, so people to understand that, okay, this is what is happening. And if we allow this to go like this, this is what is going to happen to our life. So, but this is what we say we are going to do, and everybody have to carry it along. When we look at now, well, I'm happy now that many states are coming up, are picking up. The climate change issue it affects almost all sectors. Hello?
Hello, go ahead, sir. I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, the climate change affect almost all sectors. So the Nigerian government need to wake all these sectors, wake up. Okay, this is what we say we are going to do in respect to the climate change issue, the NDC. Now, those things the Nigerian government said they are going to do, they need to do it not just to develop it. Because so many people don't even say, I've never seen the NDC. I can tell you, even in the ministry, some directors doesn't know anything about the MDC. So now, and government is a custodian of this document. And government is expected to propagate this, to disseminate this thing to everybody. And nothing is happening. So the way forward is that localization of NDC has to be on. And also the state government has to, wake up and understand that, yes, this thing is really affecting us. If you look at the Northeast, let me give you a typical example. In 2021, we were in Cameroon for the Lake Chad Basin Commission. And when every state governor is talking, most of them, none of them have been talking about the climate change. And when the UN came on board, they say climate change is one of the reasons why we're having all this nonsense. Because when you look at the Lake Chad, how it has been dried up, most of the problem is coming from that area. So basically, our food security is being threatened so much by the climate change. And if we allow it like that without taking more action, it's going to be something else. And the politics of the NDC, sometimes back, even American government are saying there's no climate change. You remember when Trump was talking about climate change, he said climate change is a fraud. The people have interest, there is politics in it. Some people doesn't want some of these things, some of the measures that have to be implemented in climate change so that to reduce the emission to be implemented, because it's going to affect their businesses. It's going to affect so many things of their life. And that was why Trump was rejecting the issue of climate change. But thank God, right now, we know the Americans are at the forefront. Yes, Trump has to reject it because his businesses, he emits a lot of carbon dioxide. The emission from Trump organization alone is something else. So by and large, what I'm trying to say that this NDC need to be localized. People need to be well propagated. People need to know it, and everybody needs to know that, yes, this is what we need to do. This is the way forward by Nigerian government. I don't know whether it has made sense. And also, the food security, looking at the food security, it's glaring now. I thank God that people are beginning to understand that, oh, this is as a result of climate change. When you look at even our storage system, you can store your crops now. We are getting different kind of insect pest, disease, and so on and so forth. And this is all as a result of the impact or the effect of climate change. So we need to continue what we are doing, just like what we are doing today, educating ourselves and also, letting people to know of the existence of climate change and how we can take action. But Nigerian government has to step up. Nigerian government, this NDC, you can imagine our NDC has been updated in 2019, I believe it's 2021. So many people doesn't know anything about it. And whenever Nigerian government are doing anything that has to do with this kind of things, you find out that they take it for granted. They just call people simply because come and do workshop, get this thing, go get some money. So we really have to be real on the issue of climate change, and we have to carry along the younger ones, and the domestication and localization of this NDC has to be at the forefront, because when the government take it very serious, if state government can start having budget on climate change issue, then I can tell you we have started making great movement. But right now, so many state government doesn't have single budget on climate change. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Johanna, kindly wrap up. All right, your time is up.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, thank you so much for your great presentation. I'm sure we have learned one or two from what you have said. All right, so without wasting much time, we're going to call on the next resource person, who is Dr. Nasiru Yekini. Nasiru Yekini, as I mentioned earlier, is from the famous Modibo Adamawa University in Yola, who is an expert in forestry and wildlife management. You're highly welcome, sir. Over to you, Dr. Yekini. You're going to be talking about what we as humans can do to ensure reduction of climate change and restoration of our vegetation. Thank you, and over.
Thank you. Well, you lost contact, but I've spoken about it. But let me still give more light to it. Just like Chief Johanna has said, just like Chief Johanna has said, he said it has to be localized. But by and large, it's all about politics. Politics in the issue of climate change has become very enormous. The politics has gone beyond what we think. Even in Nigeria, okay, like the Great Green Walls. The Great Green Walls for more than 5 years have undertaken some restoration projects. But the main thing they do is just a way of siphoning funds. I'm not really saying they have siphoned the funds, but the periods they allocate for afforestation, the location, some people have not felt the impact. That is why I guess the Chief Johanna is saying it has to be localized. Everything has to be localized. The awareness from the grassroots about what is happening, then awareness of how all and sundry can come together and ensure that they have done something, they have played a role in averting climate change. The government has to do things on environmental sanitation, all these blockages of waterways are major things that have affected environmental programs. But like he said, all said and done, whether politics, not politics, climate change is the reality. How to restore it? There are various ways to restore it. Like we're talking about food security. We have to reduce the tillaging system. We have to incorporate agroforestry to what we do. What is agroforestry? Bringing trees, bringing cash crops, bringing fishes, bringing poultry in one place. By the time you do that, you'll be able to reduce certain things because the poultry and the fish gives nutrients because the effluent from the fish gives more nutrients to the soil because of the feed. The poultry also add more nutrients to the soil and so on. Another way is there is need for more afforestation. More afforestation needs to be done. In urban areas, in local areas, there's need for more afforestation, more awareness. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yes.
Thank you for additional contribution. So I think there are some questions in the chat box. Okay, the question there is, what do rural communities use in place of the use of trees for cooking? We all know in Africa, the major source for cooking is the use of firewoods, which are gotten from trees. So how, if we are to spread the awareness in rural communities to local women, so they can actually stop the use of trees. I know the use of charcoals now have been adopted, but some people still say the charcoals are gotten from the tree. So what other strategy should we use in let me say replacing the use of charcoals and also the use of firewoods? I know there are the briquette charcoal, which they say does not emit much smoke as such, and are being produced from the use of recycled local waste materials and what have you. But are there other means for local community women to use for their cooking aside the use of the gas, which they cannot even afford? So let's hear, because most people in the rural communities are the ones who make use of these firewoods and all of that. So just for the layman to understand, when spreading the awareness, you can't just do the awareness, telling them not to use these things without providing, options for the local communities to use. So let's hear what we can actually tell them at these communities. Thank you.
Okay. Can I? Hello?
Yes, anyone can speak about that. Yes.
Yes, let me just say something. You mentioned that in rural community, the use of firewood is almost getting higher. And we ask ourselves, why? Why? Because it's cheaper than other means. Abi? So that means if people can be able to afford other afford, or if people can be able to have an alternative apart from using the tree, something else, if they can have that power, they can go for it. So it all boils down to poverty. And if we really want to avert that from the community, that means we need to strengthen the community livelihood. And also integrate so many other programs. Just for instance, like we are thinking of a kind of restoration strategy using incentive tree planting campaign, or a kind of incentive afforestation, reforestation, whereby you come, if they have land there, they have enough land, you give them a kind of incentive, something that will build up help them with their life. And also this issue of development of woodlot. A woodlot is intentional planting of trees to be used, to be cut down and used after some years. So that means we really have to extensively, integrate our approaches with a kind of some localized programs or projects that can incentivize, I can come as an incentive to these people so that they can be able to take their mind away a little bit from the trees. Just like what doctor was saying, the agroforestry. Nobody would like to cut a good tree that provide good fruits to him and just for him to go and to burn them. So by the time we come up with different kind of different strategy, localized strategy, not the one that will come from US or from UK. No, we need to come with that strategy from that community. We have to look at the community. We have to look at what can best suit the community if we want to achieve this, if we want to achieve this. And the issue of the briquettes, yes, but you have to buy it. It's no longer given free. So, and some of them, they cut trees down not just to cook, they cut trees down to go and sell so that they can get money and solve some of their major problems, like school fees, like food, medical issue, and so on and so forth. So by the time these people were being able to, if they be able to strengthen their source of livelihood, then we are going to have a kind of a less dependence on our trees. And maybe now that means you allow the trees to do their work of the sequestration, and that will be a better off program, I think. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Chief Johanna, for that contribution. I don't know if Dr. Yekini has something to add. Okay, go ahead.
Locally, there are certain things we can use, but the awareness, and then as Nigerians, we always want things to go fast our way. The deficit of cows are also used in communities. As the dry deficit of cows and other animals are used as wood. There are other things like Brussels Ethiopium. The inner portion of Brussels Ethiopium can also be used because it's a very good wood. It's a very good product of. It gives more energy. But the major thing is what Chief Johanna has said. Woodlots. Woodlots are very, very important. Community woodlot. Encourage them. These woodlots in years past have been used in so many communities, and they are still enjoying it. There are certain periods they go in, harvest, and allow it for over time to harvest and then get more wood. And from those woodlots, sometimes they get little things, little non-timber forest products. Like other places, they can be able to use, within the woodlots, they can have things like
Hello, Dr. Yakini. It seems like you're battling with your network over there. Okay, let me just share, just before he returns back with his network, let me just share my, okay. All right, it's fine then, go ahead. Obviously, he's battling with his network. All right, so last week, let me just share a little experience from my end. So last week I had the opportunity to, partake in learning how to make briquettes, this briquette charcoal by a female association, Yola Women in Trade. So we learned how to make the briquettes, just to avoid the use of fashions, which are very expensive. But I realized that the materials we used for the briquettes are actually, yes, they're actually local materials. They're actually waste materials. That's waste from sugarcane waste, from maize stalks, maize stands, and waste from rice husk and all of those waste. But then they are not easy to, get and gather at the same time. Okay, so you educating the women to use all of these materials to make local charcoal, but the availability is not even there for them, because the one I was able to make on my own did not even serve me to make a meal, a particular meal. And I put in a lot of stress to produce that briquette charcoal. So I'm really wondering how stressful it's going to be for the rural women to, develop such strategies in, avoiding the use of firewood and the use of charcoals, which are very expensive. So I'm wondering how they're going to, it still boils down to poverty, just as Chief Johanna said, because even getting the local materials, sometimes when they go to Minsulfe, they will have to still buy the husk of the rice and then the all those waste materials that we call waste. They are not easy to come by, because you wouldn't go picking, people's dustbins to gather all those materials. So I'm wondering if there is any way out for the rural women, how they can actually sustain themselves, considering the fact that some local women are not even earning anything. How do they survive this climate change? How do they, on their own parts, contribute to reduction of the effects of climate change in their various homes and their various communities? So I can see Dr. Yakini is back. So you can continue from where you stopped. You're welcome, sir. Hi, Dr. Yakini, you're muted. Kindly unmute your mic and speak.
AJ,